Hi, good evening. Oh, welcome. Who's in the chat? Ariana, good to see you. Beth, icing my knee. I feel like a queen, Queen Elizabeth. Good, well, at least you feel like a queen, right? Legs elevated. Please take care of yourself. We're gonna do a 5-value portrait today. The light is... We're gonna have to see about the light because clouds, sun, clouds. But as long as we can see 5 values here, I think we're gonna be fine. All right, to save me time and a headache, I pre-mixed my palette. Hi Linda, welcome. I think it was Linda, I think it was you who suggested purple. So I broke out this permanent mauve again. It's Daler-Rowney Georgian, and it's actually a dioxazine purple, which is a PV23 single pigment student grade paint. So that is good. And for a little bit of variation, I have Michael Harding's Raw Umber. So, hi Kelly, welcome. If you're watching and don't usually partake in the chat and you want to say hi, feel free to do so. We're very nice. 5 values, pre-mixed. It took me 15 minutes to mix this palette, and let's just go over it. So this is number 1. This is purple straight from the tube. This is value number 2. This is raw umber with a bit of white. This is value number 3, which is the mid-tone. Again, this is purple. I put them in the row where there was some raw umber here. Value number 3, value number 4, and value number 5. So here's where my problem occurs. When I mix, off of what I see, I suppose, what I think is right. I try and do that. I mix off what I think is okay, and then I take a photo and I convert that to black and white, and I can see where I'm off. So the mid-tone, for some reason, I got that one in one go. That was just dumb luck. This value is also not a problem for me. Here's where the problem occurred. I tend to, whenever things go lighter, I apparently tend to make too big of a value step, right? So I thought it was, am I saying this right? Yeah, I thought it was lighter than it was. And I actually mixed this and I took a photo, and it turned out to be very, very close to the mid-tone, which surprised me because my brain was actually telling me that such was not the case. So I went back and corrected that. But it's interesting to see what your brain is telling you without interpreting that as something that is wrong. But as something that is just the way your brain operates, and then try and correct that. So this is why I figured I would do it before starting the stream. I spent 15 minutes correcting. I made this one too light also, because you base it off the value that comes before it. So I spent a good 15 minutes mixing. My point is that probably about 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, I would have considered that some kind of failure on my part. Whereas now I'm trying to see it, and it helps when you see other artists that you perhaps admire or aspire to be more like. If you see them also spending quality time mixing. All right, the chat. Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, you got your purple, Linda. Beth is experimenting with purple but acrylic. Yes, well, purple is purple, right? So, acrylic or oil. Yes, I see them as very light too. It's funny how that works, right? I chose again, without really thinking about it, another photo of someone who merges with the dark background. As I was thinking last week, maybe I should try and avoid that, but I seem to be attracted to such things, so it is what it is. I thought about using yellow because of the fact that it's complementary to purple. However, the thing with yellow is that out of the tube it's just a very light value, and I wanted to do this number 2 value in, I wanted to switch them up because otherwise my brain goes, no, not today. And I don't think that any yellow that I own comes out of the tube this dark. I would have to go for like a yellow ochre maybe. But I despise yellow ochre. Knees popping out, that's not good. That's not. Just stay on the couch, please. In Paul Foxton's courses, he makes extra videos only for mixing the colors you need for the painting. Yes, exactly. So that was something that I really had to learn, to see that as an essential part, basically, of learning, but also of painting. And when I started out with acrylics, and I did a lot of really fun, great lessons and workshops, and everything was very fast, and everything was very, like, there's very little point in mixing 12 colors or 12 values in acrylic, because by the time you're done, they're dry. So that was an entirely different vibe. I found a purple value study, so experimentally fun. Cool, cool. I'm also trying pink. Yes, pink is also great. Magenta. Yes, I was thinking magenta is like literally the only pink that I have, I think. Magenta and yellow. I love you guys. You're so colorful. speaking of color, I do find that this, like here's my other dude, if you can see him staring at me, being all blue. Like, I feel like he looks a little bit like Edward Norton in The Hulk or something. It has that vibe. The thing with using these weird colors, these are weird for me. Like, this is not my go-to thing. But I found that it sort of releases the idea that I have to somehow establish some kind of skin tone. And it helps me, I found that it helps me to focus on what I want to focus on, which is value. But when I start, you know, doing umber or burnt sienna or purposefully mixing skin tones, then my brain goes in the other direction. Okay. Yeah, just swatch. I actually did. I started a long time ago on YouTube something called Mixing Meditations, which I thought was so smart of me. Yeah, it's just mixing. No sound. All right. Let me catch up on the chat. I love Sarah's art classes on Let's Face It. Thank you. Ed Norton all the way. I love Ed Norton. He's so weird, like me. All right, so value number 4, and we're gonna start here because this is a value number 4 area with a little light in here, which is a value number 3. I said value number 4, didn't I? But it's value number 2. I will never have this going smooth. Numbers and painting and talking and numbers. Right. So this again is a bit of a mindfuck where you think this is lighter than it is, and it's not. So let me just, yeah, that's a bit, sorry about this. All right. Right, so the forehead here is a bit overcomplicated because of the hair. So we're gonna try and ignore that. And we're gonna try and focus on, again, that gradient. And I will talk a little bit more after I put this in about how to interpret these value blocks that we're seeing. The blue man is, yes, the blue man is sitting here being very cool. I was thinking of starting that way. Too cool, just making color charts. I'll never forget how surprised I was the first time I mixed a bunch of colors. Yeah. I used to have a journal like 6-7 years ago where I would do swatches of 2 different colors mixed and single. You know, you make like 3 columns and then different values. And then I would do like, if I thought they were cool, I would do like portraits with them. I don't know when I started overcomplicating my art routine, but it was not long after that. I enjoyed your YouTube video on your latest art haul. Thank you. That was some haul, and I haven't actually used my new paints yet, and I want to. All right. The only trouble with this, you know, this way of painting is that I forget to start off with a sketch. So it kind of starts off like painting by numbers. It's not always a great thing. So I'm thinking maybe next week or in the coming weeks we can kind of expand on these 5 values. And like I said, because I'm doing paint by numbers right now, which is a bit of a problem because it's really not a good way to start your paintings. So I'm thinking we can take these values and then sort of incorporate that in a normal routine, if you know what I mean. Like start out with a painted sketch and all that. So there's very little of this mid-tone basically in this whole area. So there's a little bit here, a little bit here. And that's basically the issue also with these posterized images, is that you get this banding effect, right? And in real life it doesn't work that way. The worst habit I have is that I feel like I have to completely cover the canvas. Like I'm not happy if I can see the texture of the canvas underneath. I actually got a compliment the other day when I was painting on the festival that I was at. There was someone who looked at my painting very up close and said, "It's so cool that you can see like the texture of the," it wasn't actually canvas because I work on panel, but it was more like the brush strokes when you prime your panel. What I don't like is, but that's also a personal thing, is seeing the little white spots, right? That I don't like. I recently discovered I like the surface of gesso, and then I lose my texture. Yeah. You can also try and imprint it. I did some, like I would do gesso, and then I would have a piece of fabric, or you can get a piece of canvas, like raw canvas, and press it into it, so you get like an inverted canvas thingy. Number 4. Yes, I got it. Number 4. All right, so here we're going to talk about the forehead again, right? Because even though there's a lot of banding in the image itself, what it basically means, and this is the way really you should interpret or try and interpret these shapes that posterized images give you, is they represent a gradient, but there is not, right, a transition of value over a plane. But because there's not enough information, it basically just creates this banding. And I feel like if you start painting that, those bands of value, you start getting that very distinct posterized image look. But for us, like, I'm not trying to necessarily adopt that style, if you know what I mean. So the way that I would interpret it is say, okay, well, these bands are bigger, like this big, 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 and here you have these bands and they're smaller, right? So that means that the transition from this value to this value, which is a major step, it's like 5 steps that we have here, goes very fast, right? It goes through all the 3 values that sit in between them very, very quickly. And it says something about the nature of the shape, the characteristic of the shape. It is not getting lighter. I think we're still good. All right, let me catch up. I love your art lesson on Let's Face It with textures and building. Yes. Oh, you're working on it in purples. That's really cool. I'd love to see that. Use my rag and pray. Yeah, true. Yeah, or paper towel. Oh, I love it that you're doing my lesson. That's kind of cool. That was a packed lesson. I was like, can I have 2 weeks? Please. Oh, all right. That's my phone. I'm sorry. That's actually my kid. Maybe I should say something. Stop. Okay, bye. Reference photo. I still feel like this is such a bright color. Like bright, I mean lighter in terms of value. Messes me up a little bit. Yeah, all right. I think that shape is yeah, I think mixed media in terms of finding your style is just great. Like I love mixed media. I don't understand why sometimes in the art world it's so, I don't know. Everybody has an opinion on everything, and it's just like there's so much you can learn by just doing everything all at once, right? Instead of this whole no, you have to draw for 9 months and then you have to do charcoal. I also felt when I finally like decided that I wasn't gonna waste my time not doing art. There was so much like energy that needed to be released. Oil paint and graphite pencil, with all due respect and much love because I love it, doesn't cut it when you have that built up energy in your body. Like I wanted to paint 1 million paintings and I never really had time or energy or brain space, basically, because I did technically have time. I just was exhausted at the end of the day. And then it just came out all at once, and I just wanted to do everything. So I went with mixed media people on YouTube as well, because these people don't tell you that you have to do this basic cube thingy, whatever, first. Because that's not what I needed to hear. Right, we're gonna cheat a little bit here. Just a little bit, because I laid it on very thick here, and now I'm having problemos. Let's see. Mixed media is more forgiving, mostly. Yeah, maybe that's why. But I also think it's part of like the vibe of the mixed media community online, which is like, I feel like it's more accessible and a little less judgmental. I hope you don't mind. No, I don't. I don't see any difference in the value between the two lightest. Yeah, I have the same issue when I look at it on my screen. And I'm actually wondering if this is a lighting issue. It's clearer now. I think I'm glaring out the... Let me take a photo, because that was my struggle. Let's see. Yeah, it's a very problematic value. On my phone, when I take a photo on my phone, you can see it here. I don't know if this makes any sense. But now this value, this one, is closer to my midtone, which it's absolutely not. I think I picked maybe the wrong color for this. Yeah, let's paint a little bit more. This is an interesting 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Because I'm seeing what you're seeing, Elizabeth, on my laptop, actually, in the preview window. Let's see if we can make that a little bit darker. My iPhone looks the same. Yeah, I think we're having a situation here where this looks different on everyone's. I really wonder, do you think maybe it has to do with the color intensity? Because this purple is quite intense. And the raw umber is like the most subdued color in the history of colors. I will, however, take a photo tomorrow in daylight because I also feel like my light is getting a little bit low here. You saw the same on your phone. All right, all right. We're gonna solve this mystery tomorrow. The brown gray value doesn't seem to belong. Mix in some purple. I could though. That would be cheating. But I do agree that it's not. It's funny because I thought, do the split thing where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's funny how these, the difference in, I'm getting there, the difference in intensity, in perhaps also tinting strength, is not exactly. All right, let's mix in some. Let's mix in some purple. It's not really working in. No, that doesn't belong there. My favor is that, yeah. All right, that needed a little bit of focus. Could be temperature, yeah, it could be. Why is it cheating? Why is it cheating? That's a good question. I set these rules and then I tend to be very rigid about them. Which can be a good thing. Can be a good thing. Can also be a very weird thing to watch. What I like about doing these things is that you run into problems. That's the whole, like if you're studying and you don't run into problems, you're not doing it right. And that is a quote, I think, from my violin teacher. And every violin teacher in the world has a quote like that. It's not practice, it's repetition. Anyways, so you gotta run into problems that you then need to solve. And what I like about this, and we can talk about it some other time, is where you have these different values. So you have 5, and you distribute them throughout the phase. And then there is some science and some logic that says that certain values need to be a higher in chroma or higher in temperature than others. Let's not paint on my phone, yeah? All right, let's put in the neck, because that's looking weird. All right. You set your own rules. I know. I like setting rules. All right, so a couple of things that I want to correct. And one of them is this transition here in the forehead. I think in a previous, like the dude here on the left, I left it quite blocky. So the thing with blending here, again, I don't always recommend that you blend stuff on your actual canvas, but I just have a lot of paint. on there right now is that you kind of, like I said, have to take into account the length of the transition, right? So the length of the transition here is very small, right? So we don't blend this area like blah, 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 like we do here, right? That's when you get that look where everything is blended the same way. Do the mouth a little bit. I am intrigued by how you paint eyes. Thank you. Thank you. Let's fix the mouth a little bit. So one of the things I find really difficult with portraits where the one side is in the dark is that, I think I mentioned it before in a live stream, where I see things in the light bigger than I see things in the dark. And so I tend to shift the center of the mouth towards the left for some reason, towards the dark. In general, also, I'm not like mouths. Stop. Why did I do that? Hold on. Fingers and hands, like in the one painting of your dream. Yes, my dream buddy. Half the battle is knowing what your MO is so you can fix it while working at it. That is a really great quote, Linda. That is an epic quote. I love that. So even though in the image that I provided you, there is no more information here, we can kind of add it, sorta, a little bit. I hope you can see it still. Is it getting lighter again? Oh. Where are we at? All right, it's 45 minutes. That's good. That's great. A little bit of work here. That's a dirty brush. A little bit of work there on the cheek. right, maybe a little bit of cheating. All right. That is good enough for today. That took some focus. It's funny how it's one value more, and you sort of, or I sort of, it's also not an easy portrait, but a photo, like as in a reference photo. But somehow the information that I have to process and notice with myself and the amount that I can talk or basically not talk almost exponentially increases. I don't know why that is. I don't know why maybe 5 values triggers this sort of, okay, we're painting an actual portrait mode with me. But I noticed that last week I had a lot less issues with, with focus. So that is a thing I wanted to share. All right, let me catch up. Isn't the way we handle shapes part of our unique style? Yes, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like in that, with that basic knowledge of what is what in the face, that is where when you have that knowledge, you can pour your own. Like if you put 20 people in a row and let them draw or paint the same basic front-faced portrait in planes, they will all draw something different, right? So yeah. I love watching you paint. It inspires me to do the same. I have my easel ready. Good. Everything set up. Nice. Cup of tea. Nice. This was a hard angle. Yeah, it's hard lighting, and I love her face. I painted her a couple of times. But she has very soft transitions in terms of value in the face, which again are difficult to get right. It is daytime for you, Linda, probably. It is nighttime here. I'm exhausted because I'm doing kitchen renovation at the same time, and physical labor is just, I'm weak. I will admit that. I'm weak. I can sit on my ass and paint for 8 hours, but I have to put in a new floor, and I'm like, oh. Pain in my body. Let's do another 5 values next week, and then maybe we can focus or sort of transition a little bit more into planes, where now we got the posterized thing, and I also kind of want to show you how maybe you can simplify something into a plane, which is a very simple shape. So that might be a thing. But then I will be drawing the reference photo for you in planes, and I'll put that up as a reference because there's no no algorithm for that as far as I know. I do have an app though with 3D model plane heads, so we can also use screenshots from that. That would also be cool. It's lunchtime. Well, go, yes, lunchtime. Sandwich and paint is great. DIY is challenging. Yes, it is. Like I said, I am weak. Thank you for joining me. Linda, have a great time painting. Beth, do not leave the couch, please. Ariana, Kelly, Elizabeth, and whoever else is watching right now, thank you for joining me. And I will see you again next week with some other stuff. All right, have a great night or a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Mwah.